So I've just finished that one off there, did the final pin on there, and then we're going to put this component in place. So this one's a little bit smaller and the pins are a little bit closer together, so let's get it out of its packaging. So then we have to make sure we get this the right way round. So normally there's either a notch or a dot. On my board there is a notch, and on this component it's just a bar, which I think will be at the pin 1 end of the component, so it'll go on that way round. And then similar procedure, so I'm going to solder the first pin, which will probably be for me the bottom right. That'll be the easiest one to start with, and then and we'll apply the same technique. We'll put some solder onto that pad, and then I think this is probably easy enough to hold by hand. So I'll just hold it in place, warm that up and let some solder flow so that it sticks it into place, and then just check that all of the other pins are in the right place, which looks as though they are, and it's now sufficiently well held in place that I can go on and do the other pins. Always good to remember not to redo that pin, that first pin. I do that quite a bit. So, and then just very carefully put solder onto each of these. Doesn't need much solder. It's quite useful to have thin solder. I think this is 0.3 millimeters, as I recall. Can be a bit frustrating if it's too thin, because you end up having to push quite a lot into each joint, but I think that sort of size is about ideal for this kind of work. Okay, and that's done, and again you can redo the pin that you did first if you're not comfortable that it was a good joint. So there we are. Now I think I had that very small resistor somewhere, and I have knocked it off the board in the process of building things, and now I don't know where it is. So maybe I'll have to go on a hunt for another one. Oh no, there it is, found it. That is ludicrously small. I think that's an 0603 metric, which I think is 0.6 of a millimeter by 0.3 of a millimeter or something crazy like that. But that goes in this position where it says R5, I think it is 510. The actual value can be anything between about 330 and whatever you like, really. It just sets the brightness of the LED, so it'll be a bit brighter if you use a smaller resistor there. Again, the same technique, and I'm going to redo that end because I'm not quite happy with that joint, and that's that component in place. I'm not going to populate these two capacitors. They proved to be unnecessary and actually detrimental, in fact, to the resetting of the ESP32, so don't populate those two. And I think probably the next thing to put on here is going to be the ESP32.